Hey guys, welcome to Joe's Shrimp Shack. Glad to meet you on this Wednesday. Drinking all my coffee, getting all jacked up. So we'll wait for some more people to come in here. Let me say hi to everybody. So let's see. Let's go to the front right here. Fishing Tantics, good morning. Good morning. Lori, how you doing? Wow, she's got all my links all up on here. So which link do I want to throw up on here right away? Let's go to the Facebook group. I kind of like the Facebook group one. We can do that one right there. Yes. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming and joining us. Today we're going to be talking about all things Nano, pros and cons. I have my special guest. He's in the back green room. That's what we call it, a green room. And I'm just drinking my coffee, waiting for some more people to hop on in. So we're going to talk about the pros and cons to Nano aquariums. We're going to talk about some of the shows that are coming up, the show that's going on in Minnesota. We're going to talk about Aquafest. I know they updated their site. I have an announcement to make for the Minnesota Co-op Minnesota one. Like, you guys shouldn't want to miss this one right here. I got it all planned out yesterday. Just checking all the emails and stuff. So, yes, guys, I am super happy about it. Nano Aquarium guy, good morning, good morning, good morning. So I'm going to give it roughly, because it's been going for about a minute and a half. So I'm going to give it a couple more minutes for people to come in, and then I'm going to bring my guest on in. So if my guest would like to go get coffee or whatever he needs to go do, I'm watching. I'm watching in the green room. I see you. So, but yeah. So love Nano deep substrates also. Fishing Tantics, good morning. And then, yes. Oh, Monster Fish Gale. How you doing? Good morning. So he's getting situated, so I'm just drinking my coffee. I get jacked up on coffee. Like, before I even leave my house, I have a pot of coffee. And I come here and I make myself a little latte and just get all super jacked up. Justin Peterson, good morning. So yes, we're gonna talk about everything. Special guest, whenever you're ready, give me a thumbs up and I can bring you on in. So just kind of watch him on the side right there. I just to let you know, I can't hear you when I'm doing this right here. Okay, perfect. He's like talking to me, but I can't hear him. So, all right, without Brandon, how you doing? You do when you notice a dead boa, checked all my water parameters and all the water shades. Yeah, and we can talk about that like later. When you have a dead boa, you have to start checking water parameters, GHKH, ammonia, nitrate, and stuff. All right. So without any further ado, my special guest. Y'all may know him if you listen to podcasts from the aquarium guys. We have Jim Colby. Welcome, everybody.
Hey, Scooter, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing there, Bubba?
Not too bad. I got the day off. It's snowing up here in my neck of the woods. Oh, we got about 4 or 5 inches of snow. So,
well, we got snow the other day. How much did you get the other day?
We got nothing. You guys got it all the other day.
Oh yeah, so we just shifted it up there. We just took our snow blowers down here. We just kind of pushed it all up there.
That's exactly right. It happened.
That's all we do. So, how have you been? It's been a couple weeks since you've been on here.
I've been doing good. We've got a lot of projects going on up here in our fish room, and a lot of different things happening up here in the Northland and stuff. So we're pretty excited about everything happening down in your neck of the woods coming this summer.
Yes, that's very true. And what he's talking about is June 3rd, we are doing a kind of like, it started as a get-together, and it went from a get-together to a barbecue. From a barbecue, it ended up going to almost like an event. And it's just one of those things where it's just like, make sure it's on here. There it is right there. Just make sure I go in here. Is the one and only Minnesota Co-op Great Get-Together, which is an awesome thing. I have a TCMS, which is the saltwater nonprofit. We have MASS, which is the freshwater. We have house plants, hopefully reptiles. I'm waiting to hear back from that group. Fish keepers. We have Minnesota Planet Tanks going. But I also wanted to go and let me just close this one out. Give a special So the page is Minnesota Co-op. This is the group page right here. We also have the business page, but I also want to make an announcement that yes, Miss, let me see if I can enlarge this. Boom, 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 boom. Miss Melanie Holmes will be up here from our aquascaping team from Nature Freaks. Her flight got booked last night. She'll be coming up on Friday and leaving on Sunday. She'll be doing a live aquascaping and answer questions. Melanie's right here. She's awesome. She's known as the Queen of Dark Water. So if you notice, she's like been liking everything and posting everything. We're getting a lot of like watches from more people out there for what's going on in Minnesota. Let me just get back in the thing right here. Scroll back down. So I have, let's do this right here. Boom. Let me go back to it. So Minnesota Planet Tanks will be doing a swap table for plants. They'll also be doing a kids aquascape workshop. And I'm working on the sponsors for donating the tanks and the soil and stuff. The kids will be able to do an aquascape, learn how to do an aquascape, and then take that tank home with them. Minnesota Fish Keepers. Hey, JL. I want everybody to say hi to JL. He stopped in here last year. He's my other moderator. He does a lot of the Twitch. So hello, everybody. If you haven't started following him, follow him. Minnesota Fish Keepers is going to do a 12 and under, let me get that up there, 12 and under fish drawing contest, and top 3 prizes will win. We'll have speakers there. We're going to have food trucks. We're going to have people selling their products outside. We'll have an ice cream. We have a lot of stuff going on. So that is June 3rd from 12 until 6. We'll have raffles. We'll have sponsors there. We got a lot of stuff going on. And Mr. Jim, you're going to be there, correct?
We're going to be there. We've already blocked off our schedule. We're going to come down and press the flesh, as they say, and get to meet everybody. I love coming to these events and just visiting with everybody, because everybody has got such wonderful ideas. My wife does all the work. She takes all the money, and then we just meet up at the end of the day.
Isn't that
a
how
lot of crap about it too?
Isn't that how it always goes? You do all the work and she takes all the money? Yes,
exactly. She's a go-getter too. I'm pretty excited. I heard all the things that I like about events, but I didn't hear anything about pony rides. Is there going to be pony rides?
No pony rides. I should see. That'd be kind of funny if we can get that here. I can try to work on it. I was talking to Melanie when Melanie was over in Chicago, and I was trying to get her, because Chicago's only like 6 hours from here. So I was trying to get her to like do the long swing back down to where she's from. And she went over and says, why, I kind of want to come up to your event. And I'm like, well, we could talk about it and everything else. And I really want you to come up here. Long and behold, I got bored last night and I called her on the phone. I'm like, look, I said, what is the airport you're from? Like, what is the code? And she told me, and I kept on screwing up I kept on looking up. I'm like, how the hell is a flight that expensive from, it was basically Missouri. And I kept on entering the wrong code. And I finally looked at her and I'm like, it's actually not that much to come up here. And she's like, really? And I'm like, I'm just booking it. And I just booked the flight and everything else. So she'll be coming here. We'll be going out to eat, which would be kind of great. If a lot of the vendors want to go out to eat and stuff, I am not paying for everybody's dinner. I'm going to make this foreknown.
Wow.
Like when I go to all my other shows, everybody's like, oh, Joe's here with JBJ and stuff. He's just buying everybody dinner. No, I'm not. Like
the last time you bought me dinner, you said, yeah, go ahead and supersize it as we went through the drive-through. I'm like, oh, thanks.
And then unfortunately you couldn't supersize it because we're at White Castle. So.
That's right. Exactly.
No, we had fun last time that we went out and everything else.
Yes, we did. That was a large bar bill also. So
yeah, it's one of those things. Like, I don't mind taking a couple people out, but if like hundreds of people show up, I don't have that kind of money. I'll tell you that right now.
You know what? We'll do free hot dogs or something like that.
Yeah, I have my grill here and I have stuff here. I got soups. I got everything here. You guys get that right there. So, but yeah, I know everybody wanted it. I wanted to bring this up. We can bring it up later. I'm going to just kind of remove it. Remove right there. So what we can do is, everybody's been kind of long and anticipated. If you guys have any questions, please ask the questions on here, and then I'll keep on scrolling up and try and get to it. But we're going to talk about the pros and cons of nano aquariums. This is a topic that Mr. Jim decided to pick up today, which I'm completely fine with it. So, Jim, what would you like to start with nano aquariums as I'm drinking my coffee?
I tell you, for the longest time, I thought nano aquariums were just the biggest pieces of crap, honestly. I started out in freshwater, and I always loved the bigger the tank, the better, in my opinion. And then once I was introduced to shrimp after being in this business for 25, 30 years, I started seeing the beauty of these nano tanks. And, the podcast that I do with a couple other guys, we started the podcast just for the fact that we wanted to draw in a younger audience. And we wanted, because honestly, let's face it, in our business, the kids are more interested in putting out, playing video games and hanging out at the mall than they are at actually having a hobby at home.
Correct.
And so when we first started this, that was kind of our thought. Well, let's see if we can bring in some young listeners and stuff. Our podcast is not family friendly by any means. We call each other chuckleheads and stuff, but but we've got a lot of young people that come to our events and just say, yeah, my kids. I let my kids listen. But I said, don't do what they do. But when
100%, like when I have your card here at the store and I see a kid grab that card, I go to the parents and I'm like, this is adult themed. They're like, really? And I'm like, I said, it's a lot of good information on there, but I will say, like, it's not X-rated, but it's more S-rated. Let's say it's more S-rated.
It's like listening to a bunch of guys sitting at the bar. Honestly.
Yeah, 100%. Some of the stuff, like, we get on I remember, like, when we had a Big Rich on there. And we started with
Fish Rescue.
Yeah, we started the Effenheimers with the duck and everything.
Yeah. We have an editor now who's got carpal tunnel syndrome on his wrist because he has to keep putting all the duck sounds when we swear, which is quite often.
It happens.
It happens, but
at least you guys use the duck sound and everything else.
But anyway, what I'm really excited about is when I finally found nano tanks, and at that time I had a office and I was doing mortgages at the time, and I was able to have a small tank on my desk, and customers would come in to talk about their mortgages and whatnot. Excuse me. And normally these people would have a couple of small children with them, and so and those kids would sit there mesmerized by this desk, so we could talk as adults about their mortgages and whatnot. And pretty soon that little aquarium, which was, I think I had a 2.5 gallon tank on my desk, and then pretty soon the damn shrimp started breeding in there, and all of a sudden it's a very busy tank, and I threw in some small Nemo fish, and it got to be quite the talk of the office because I was in a building of offices and stuff. People would come in and check on things and see the baby fish and stuff. And that's when I started becoming, interested in nano tanks. Because at the time, it was just kind of a distraction for small kids when they came into my office.
Yeah. Which is great. Like, I started out with all nano tanks. So when I started first off, what do you consider a nano aquarium?
Me, I anything under a gallon, I assume would be a nano.
But I know, like, in the industry, they consider a lot of 30 gallons and less nanos. So I even go further out and say anything below a 10-gallon tank is like super nano. We call them super nanos or whatever you want. I just went over, and so I started with the 10-gallon aquarium. And then I got a bunch of 5s, and I got some 2.5s. What ended up happening is, like, I'm going to admit it, I'm a shrimp addict. I would over order shrimp. I would go on, like, Facebook used to allow us to have auction sites where we can actually sell livestock and actually purchase livestock. That was back in the good old days. So what I used to do is I used to go over, and not only would I bid on this auction, it was addicting. The auction was addicting, but I would contact the seller when I want them, and I'm like, hey, can I buy anything else from you? And then I would just buy a lot, but I would forget what I have coming. And then all of a sudden I get this box and I have 8 different lines of shrimp in there. And I only had like one aquarium. And I was like, oh crap. So it was easier for me to go to one of the main chain stores and go pick up a small 2.5 gallon aquarium. And I had a bunch of dual sponge filters. I love my dual sponge filters. I would then take the tank home, take one of the old filters off my dual sponge filter, put a new one on there, put that. It was basically seeding a tank. And then I used the protobio product, the vials for startup. And then I put the shrimp in there, and I had instant survival on there. So I learned very quickly about the aquascape, the Nano aquariums, and I thought they were pretty simple. Now I know that when you're if you want to aquascape Nano aquariums, it's harder to actually aquascape these because it's harder to find plants that actually fit that one. So yeah, I love it. So there it is. I was trying to find your podcast here. So thank you, Lori. We got your podcast all listed up on this one.
Yeah, last night we did another episode of the podcast. We're getting close to having 100 episodes out now. And there was several questions last night about smaller nano tanks and stuff, because people that have 10 tanks now realize they can put in another 3 tanks if they're small, and they can put them on their desk or their kitchen table or whatnot. And it's just fun to see people evolve into wanting more and more tanks.
Yeah.
And then people always call and they always try to flex, and they go, I've got 30 tanks. And we go, well, that's a great start, for those who aren't addicted,
Yeah. That's a good start. I love it when people come into my store and they're like, I'm like, well, you just buy another tank if you need it. He's already got 4.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember that. That was like my 3rd week into it. I remember having 4 tanks.
When I was growing up, I grew up in rural North Dakota, and in a little town that had about 70 people. And my mom had her mom's tank. So it'd be my grandmother's tank, one of the slate bottom and the stainless steel corners and stuff. And my mom had guppies and zebra danios, both of which bred prolifically in that tank. And my parents had an old house that was built in 1898, and it had 3 big bay windows with glass shelving on it. And I want to say there's probably 6 shelves per window. So it's probably 18 shelves in that place. And each shelf had 4 or 5 little bowls of guppies or zebra danios in different sizes, stages, colors. And that's how I got started. My mom sucked me into it. And when I was in college, I was the only guy that had a 150-gallon fish pond in the corner of my apartment. And it was 5 foot by 7 foot and about 22 inches high. And people would come over, and we had a lot of parties. And you'd wake up in the morning, there'd be a lot of beer cans floating in this pond, but never lost a fish. We always had big sized goldfish in there. And so all the way through college, I drug tanks along. When I first got my first marriage, when I got married, we had tanks and stuff. And then I got involved in the wholesale operation of it when I was about 25 years old. And now I've been doing it for 30 years. But I just love seeing every time I go on the list of all the different wholesalers that I purchase from, I always go look to see what's new. And it seems like there's a new shrimp every goddamn 15 minutes. I swear to God. What's up with you people?
Hey, did you see this? Who's your sexy surprise guest? Ooh, la la.
Wow.
That's from a Facebook user. Here's the thing. If you're on Facebook, unfortunately, I can't see your name unless you register with StreamYard. Trust me, it's not spam or anything else. It's just when you register with it, it allows us to see the names. But I think we kind of know who it is. So.
Oh, really? That's good.
I think it's your better half.
Yeah, exactly. Every time I'm on one of these, I go, God, who is that ogre? Oh, that's me. Never mind. Shrek. That's why I was trying to find something more interesting in the background, because then people look at all the pictures in the background, they'll be going, and then they kind of distract from me. They're just trying to figure out what the hell's in the background now. So
it's his favorite wife. So do you have like non-favorite wives?
Yes, I do. My first one is my non-favorite wife, and now my current wife is now my favorite so far. Nice. But so far, I highly recommend everybody get divorced at least once, because then your second wife will hear all the bad things about the first wife, and then she'll just try to correct them. So my first wife now has bought me 2 motorcycles. So when I first got married, I had 5 motorcycles, and we started having kids. I've got 2 boys, and now they're in their 30s. But I've got 2 boys, and my wife then said, a responsible adult, Jim, does not have motorcycles. It's too dangerous. You can get hurt. And anyway, she just did this in my ear for I don't know how long, until I got rid of all those motorcycles. And so when I got remarried about 8-9 years ago, The first thing she did was buy me a motorcycle, and now last year she's bought me a much bigger motorcycle. So
nice.
So yeah.
Unfortunately, I've never been married, so I don't like. I'm not anti-marriage. I just never had an opportunity to do that. I've came close, but then of course things don't work out. I'm not anti-relationships or anything else. It's just at this stage, like I want to concentrate on my career. That's the biggest thing. Is like this. The store here is my baby. Yeah, but let's get back at it. So let's talk about pros and cons of nano aquariums. Okay, let's talk about like the pros first. So let's start listing some pros. Jim, what can you list as some pros for the nano aquariums?
I love the real estate of it. You don't take up a lot of room. Mm-hmm. You can take a small area and you can line up 10 nano tanks and aquascape them, and each one is their own different little world.
Correct.
Just kind of like, remember Men in Black, at the end of Men in Black and stuff, and the little tiny world that was in the necklace. That's kind of what I see as the nano tanks and stuff. And you could have so many different things going on within a 4-foot length of shelf that it's just incredible.
Yeah. It's like, I look at it like with the Men in Black one is like the critters that were in the lockers.
Yes.
So it's kind of like you have a lineup of lockers. Each one is its own separate world or universe, and you could do said thing. Like I love shrimp. So it's kind of cool how you can do line breed on each tank. And I would have different mosses in each tank and let it go. And the thing is like they're all, one type of creature out there, but they're all in their own specific world doing their breeding and stuff. Another good thing about it, I think, is the maintenance on it isn't bad at all. Like to do a water change in a 2.5 gallon tank, it's really simple. I tell people go get one of those little Folgers jar and take that out after you clean your substrate. I mean, it's super simple.
It's funny you say that, because when I in the office, I used to take my coffee cup, which is a pretty large coffee cup. I would dip in the water to make sure I didn't have any critters, and just pour it down the bathroom drain and get fresh water and pour it back in. It's that simple. Do it
it's on your super simple. Yeah, it's super simple. You can have multiple different critters. I want to say critters because we can do more than just shrimp and fish. Some people do spiders, but you can have multiple, like on one 36-inch shelf, you can fit literally 6 2.5s. You can fit 5 gallon tanks on there. So you can have multiple different breeds of fish that are in there as well.
Last night, somebody sent us a picture of their little nano tank. And in the corner, I thought I saw something and asked them to snap a picture of what it was. And they had 4 baby axolotls. How do you say that?
Axolotls.
Axolotls. There we go. Axolotls in that tank. 4 little babies. And I've never seen those in a small tank. They're going to outgrow that pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah.
But, axolotls need cold water. They like the cover and stuff. And he had a couple of shrimp in there, which were going to be nothing but lunch for those axolotls later on. But
yeah,
it was something cool that I'd never seen before. I mean, the things that people can come up with, you've seen the stupid things, the threads on Reddit and whatnot, where people are take a light bulb and gut it out and put a shrimp in it. I mean, you see this stuff all the time.
I mean, I've seen stuff over in Taiwan where they have a small necklace and they'll have a critter in there or a keychain. And I don't agree upon any of that. I honestly don't agree upon any of that, but it's not my prerogative. Like if that person wants to do, I understand it can be cruel to animals and stuff. That's on them. My thing is when people go over and say, like here at the store, Joe, I have a 5 gallon tank and I can't put no more than 5 Endler guppies in it according to the rule that was set forward. And I'm like, well, you mean the 1 fish per inch per gallon? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I hate really like saying a lot to you. So here's the thing. And Jim, you can agree on this. Fish release a growth hormone in the water. And what happens is on some fish, they release a lot. I'm going to use the example of goldfish. Goldfish release a lot of growth hormone in the tank. So what happens is when the water gets that hormone of growth hormone, they stop growing. But what happens is that fish, the insides can keep growing, and that's where, like on goldfish, they'll end up dying. because a goldfish is not made to be in a small 5-gallon tank. It's not even supposed to be in a 10-gallon tank. I mean, goldfish can get huge. But a lot of, from what I understand, is surveys go out. Things that happened in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s all can be completely changed as the future goes by. So according to what I understand is like a survey went out and said, how often do you want to do a water change in your aquarium? And most of the hobbyists went over and said, I want to do it once a month. So 1 fish per inch per gallon kind of got adopted with that one. But I personally think that if you're willing to do the maintenance on said aquarium, if you don't overfeed your fish, if you're doing your water changes properly, if you take care of everything, you can have more than just those 5 guppies in a 5-gallon tank. What do you think?
I totally agree. And when they talk about 1 inch per fish, look at a zebra danio and look at a 2-inch zebra danio and a 2-inch fantail goldfish. It's like comparing the droppings from a Clydesdale to a Chihuahua.
Yeah.
I mean, that goldfish is going to poop and poop and poop and poop and produce so much more waste, where you probably could have 10 zebra danios to 1 goldfish.
But it all comes down to the water
Right.
clarity.
And
if you have a lot of fish in there, they produce a lot of ammonia. But if you're willing to take it out, you don't have an issue.
Yep. And then you look back at, and I don't know, was it probably the 1950s they came up with that rule? And filtration isn't what it used to be.
Correct.
Filtration is so much better and whatnot. It's interesting that you said about the growth hormone. I was just, my wife wants some more discus fish.
Yep.
And a breeding pair of discus fish are about $600 plus shipping.
Yep.
And but she's always wanted to have a breeding pair of discus. And I was on Jack Watley's site the other day reading about discus, and he was the gentleman that runs his shop out of Miami is pretty famous, and he's on YouTube a lot and stuff. But take a look at stuff. But on his blog, he was talking about, if you, rather than try to save some money when you're buying discus, if you have a tank full of discus, let's say you have 4 discus in this tank, and they're all 5-inch. Don't buy 2-inch discus and put it in the same tank, because that's exactly what will happen. As those 2-inch fish will not grow up to their to where they should be, because of the hormones that are released by the large fish, because it's all about survival of the fittest out in the wild. And so they want to be, they're saying, if you buy 2-inch fish, grow them up to be 5-6 inches and then introduce them, is what he's saying. Right. But of course, I'd never heard that before. And then several people had chimed in about angelfish and then other fish and stuff too. And I was really surprised about how much I didn't know about any of this until about a week ago.
Yeah, and a lot of breeders of discus fish will do 90 to 95% water changes. I know a guy in Minnesota, he does pretty much a 98% water change every day on said discus to remove that growth hormone out of the water, because I've seen discus. They can get plate size.
Yeah, that last year at the show, they were that big. And
that's because the growth hormone's getting removed out of the water.
Yep. And then the water quality is always pristine. A lot of these guys will do a drip system. I mean, if you go overseas and you look on YouTube, and you'll see these guys pulling the plug on their said tank, and 300 gallons of water hit the floor, and the fish are in 3 inches of water, flop around, and then they fill it back up. And they do that every day. And you wonder how these fish can even handle that sort of intensity when they do a water change like that. But it's working for them, because that's where they're producing most of the discus in the world.
My show tank, when I set up my JBJ 45-gallon show tank, I was doing a 90% water change weekly on the tank. And everybody's like, well, what about you spiking a new cycle and stuff? I never spiked a new cycle. The fish got kind of used to it. The fish learned there's a certain low spot in my tank. They'd all, when I started doing the water change, they'd all go to that little area, and then I would do the big water change. But that was all about, the plants in the tank. The plants liked to have, when I purchased these plants, they were used to already being water changed every single week. So that's what I just continuously did.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million things you can do for water changes. If you're so lazy like myself, don't like doing water changes, you put an automatic drip system in with an overflow system. It's just a million things you can do. And there's a lot of people that come up with these ideas and share them on YouTube and whatnot. Yep. The other day I got shared the coolest thing, and I haven't even told you about this, Joe. But there's a gentleman that I'm buying some rams from, and he was talking about making his own hinges for his tank, or I'm sorry, lids for the tank with the hinges and stuff. And he went one further, and he bought some molding to sit on top of his tank, so his tank top slides. And so all you have to do is slide back and forth, just like when you see those type of cabinets where the glass slides, in front of itself. And that's what he did for his tanks, because he said, my hands are usually full when I'm feeding. So it's easiest to use one finger and push the slide and pull back the slide rather than try to hold up the lid. Yeah. Because most of us that have got a lot of tanks, we've got them crammed onto pallet racking or shelving where you can't even get into it very easily. Yeah. I mean, you can, but it's all about saving space and whatnot. So.
Yeah. Instead of, if everybody's trying to look to get more aquariums at their house, but their spouse won't let them, this is what you do. You just ask how many square feet you can have.
Exactly.
Because then you can go vertically versus horizontally. I mean, a rack, you can go to Fleet Farm or other said places, and you can go buy a rack for $80, $90, and you can fit that's how I started. You can fit, I put all my 10 gallons on the bottom, I put all my 5.5s in the middle, and I put all my 2.5s up top. And I had my whole, you can go on the Joe Shrimp Shack group page, and you can scroll back to 2017 and 2018. You can see my room was just littered with aquariums. And I understand it can be overwhelming to, my landlord came in and he's like, what in the good Lord is this?
Yeah. What I like about the pallet racking that you just mentioned is like yourself and myself, you change things up. And 6 months ago, this isn't working. And you can just easily take those shelves and readjust them, move them, put the tanks back on it and do something. I mean, a lot of people make really nice wooden racks out of 2x4s and paint them up, but you're stuck with that design now. Basically, until you have to spend a whole weekend trying to redo it.
That's kind of like what I did. So when I was at my house, I ended up doing the Fleet Farm racks that were 36 inches by 20 inches. The problem you had is between the first layer and the second, because it was a 6-foot pole, but each pole was only 3 inches. So what happened is they had them sitting on, they had them kind of sitting on top like this, and then you had to use the shelf bracket, and you had to hook one side and each side to keep it stable. I didn't like that look. So then when I moved to my last store, I bought one of those Husky from Home Depot Gladiator racks, and I bought the 90-inch one, and then I noticed it start bowing, so I didn't like that. So then I contacted my friend Tyler, and we made wooden racks, and I used that for quite a few years. And I just said, well, I kind of like this concept, but when I move, I want to do something else. So you learn from things. I'm not saying it was a mistake. I'm just saying that I learned for the ease of me doing water changes, for people viewing stuff. I wanted to try something different. And then now I came to the Menards racking system. Looks cool, but honestly, I would upgrade it to something else, because now it's I'm looking at it okay, I have so my back area is a breeding area. So it's my personal area. The thing is now when you have a room and you have this racking and you have tanks set up a certain way, you only can fit so many tanks in that room. So now I want to change it up to do something completely different where I can actually fit more tanks in there to give more people looks. Because what's the difference? I mean, if they're going in the shrimp cave versus my back area, at least in the shrimp cave, I can keep an eye on everybody so nothing happens in my aquariums and stuff. But yeah, that's what's good about having Nano aquariums is you can fit lots of them in there. Lots.
And the weight, I mean, there isn't that much weight on those smaller tanks.
No, I'm going to be honest with you. It is so easy. Let's say you have something going on. A 2.5-gallon tank or 5-gallon tank, you can drain, 2.5, you just pick it up. 5-gallon tank, you just drain some water and you can literally pick up the aquarium and move it. When you start going to a 40-gallon breeder, you can't do that. You can't. And how I set up mine is underneath I had space. And what I did is I bought those Christmas wrapping paper, the totes. And I put the totes underneath there, and I would keep all my food, my leaves, everything underneath there. But if I ever had an issue with the tank leaking and I need it really fast, I can pull the thing out, dump everything that's in there quick, and throw it underneath, and it actually holds 20 gallons of water.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, it works really well, and I still do the concept at the store here. Now, I do like letting people know. Like, I understand that one of the chain stores does $1 per gallon sale and half off, and but those tanks aren't made. They're not supposed to be made for a lifetime tanks. They're bulk made. They're assembly line style making and stuff like this. And I know everybody's just like, hey, I don't know why my 5-gallon tank started leaking. How old is it? 10 years old. Get a different one. Like, they're not really made to last like a lifetime. Some do last a lifetime and it works good, but what I see a lot of times on Nano aquariums is people use scrapers, and they'll go to the side of the tank and they'll take their scraper that has a razor blade and they'll try to get all the algae off. And then what happens is they separate that silicone. I can't believe I just did that to my football card. Sorry.
That is so interesting. You're talking about the scraper and whatnot. I've got friends who see an aquarium at a garage sale and then go, "Oh, you only want $1 for that? I'm going to buy it for Jim." And then they said, "Hey, I found an aquarium for $1. Dropped it off at your house." And I look at it, and 9 times out of 10, it was a hamster. It was a hamster tank, and there was no silicone left in there whatsoever because he's just chewed it all off.
Yeah,
And if you want to spend time re-siliconing, I mean, it can be done. We've all done it. It's not worth it to me because all of a sudden your time is valuable. And I'm like with Joe, just chuck it. If you look back I've got some old oceanic tanks that are so heavy when they're dry, you can't hardly carry them and stuff. But
is that the one that had the granite bottom and everything?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the glass is so thick on them. I mean, it's probably 3 times thicker than it needs to be, but it's just phenomenal compared to what it used to be to what it is now about how they're producing these tanks.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to another place that manufactures tanks, and I was surprised at how fast they're pushing these things out. It's just one of those things where it's like you have quick tanks, and then you have decent tanks, and then you have lifelong tanks. I'm not saying that every aquarium out there is only made to last 2 to 3 years. Okay? They do have companies that manufacture tanks that are supposed to be lifelong tanks. You're paying more money for these tanks, but they last a lot longer. The thing is like I've had at the store here 4 or 5.5 start leaking just randomly out of the blue from the bottom. Usually it's from the bottom. And I keep a lot of spare tanks in the back, and that's why I have these spare tanks. I can literally, something starts leaking, I can literally go in back, grab another 5-gallon tank, hurry up and come up front, suck all the water out in that tank, take the livestock, put it in there, and then worry about the substrate and stuff later because it's only a 5-gallon tank. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, the whole thing with those tanks, as long as you have the tanks completely, when I say level, it's just when the tanks are dry, if you can put your fingers on opposite corners and push down, and as long as they don't rock, they'll probably last a long, long time.
Yeah.
But people who don't make sure, because some of these racks aren't completely level, and if you use like a wire, the wire shelving, I don't really like on those because they'll kind of get kittywampus and they won't sit. So I mean, most people put a piece of plywood on it or whatnot, but you have to have all 4 corners pretty solid. And if you have those 4 corners solid, you're not going to most likely spring a leak.
Yeah.
And
no, I noticed like on these Menard tanks. So I bought the 120-inch one, and they were rated. They're rated for, I want to say, 1,200 pounds per level. I want to say, please don't quote me on it, but I know it's over 500 pounds.
Yeah, I just bought some, so yeah, you're right.
So the thing is like on 2 of the walls that are 120 inches long by, I think I chose 24 inches. And I decided to put 20 longs on there. So 60, it's basically 60 gallons. The soil is probably like 3 pounds worth of soil on the whole level. I just do a light sprinkling and stuff. But that's only 60 gallons, which in theory is what, 480 pounds, give or take?
Yep.
And the thing is, if you come to my store and you take a look, it's already bowing.
Mm-hmm.
But at least there's only 3 tanks on it, and where it's bowing, it just brings the whole tank down. So it's not like bowing in the center of the tank. It's just bringing the whole tank down so it just looks off-centered. I don't like that. Like, that's like my biggest thing is like, all right, here's my next upgrade. Is this stuff's gone.
Yeah, I just did 2 new racks in my basement, and they're holding 10-gallon tanks the long way. And I got on one side, and I did the 20-inch because that's exactly what a 10-gallon tank needs. But I have one that holds 36 tanks, and the other one holds 28 tanks. And I don't see any Boeing with the 10-gallon tanks, but like on my other rack where I've got 29s and 40s and stuff, I see the Boeing completely just like Joe said.
Yeah. And it's sad. Fish Tropic Canada said, I would rather reseal because like I know they'll never leak again. And that's the thing is like someone even said that the silicone is different nowadays than what it was before. And I 100% agree. I kind of look at it like if it's a 10-gallon aquarium, I mean, you can get 10-gallon aquariums as cheap as $10. For me to buy a tube of silicone and do it, so time is always valuable for me. I just wouldn't that's me personally. I wouldn't re-silicone it.
Right. But you won't throw that tank away. You'll let it sit there in the corner and you'll give it away to some little kid and say, here, go fix it for yourself.
Well, what I do is if I have something like, I'll ask people like I had a 5.5 leak and it leaked from the bottom. And I had someone come in. I'm like, hey, do you want this 5-gallon tank? I said, it does leak on the bottom. I said, but if you're trying to do like a little terrarium or something like this, it'll work perfect, for you. And I just give it away.
Right.
And that's the thing. I also tell people like, hey, if you're buying a used tank on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever else, keep in mind, like ask the people, how long has it been sitting empty? Because someone could have had an aquarium and then gave up on the aquarium and let the tank go to poop. And they got tons of algae in there. And of course, when they drain the tank, set it out in their garage, let's say it's summertime and it's nice and warm, that algae could have gotten back to the silicone and then started expanding. And you can cause leaks that way too.
And the one thing too, if we're talking about silicone, I'll throw this out here. I was a bad man and I asked my wife to pick up some silicone at our local Menards. And she called me and she goes, you don't realize there's like 75 kinds of different silicones here, and they've got the colored silicones, they got the almond, the white, the black, the tan. And I said, do you see 100% clear silicone? And she finally found it, but there's so many silicones out there that are made for your bathroom, and they have mildew resistant chemicals in the silicone, and you don't want that either. So if you're buying silicone, make sure it's just 100% clear silicone.
Here's the thing: if you don't know, Google it. That's the thing. Is like Google has a lot of information out there that has pros and it has cons, just like everything else. The thing is, but it doesn't hurt to actually look up that silicone and basically ask Google a question: is blah 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 safe for aquariums?
Yeah. And
you're going to get a lot of people like giving their answers on it. And the thing is like if you go to a site that has 20 answers on it and 16 of them are kind of like, yeah, I wouldn't do that. I had this issue. I had this issue. But you had 4 of them saying it was good. Like I would honestly look at the 3/4 and maybe find something else to see if it works better.
Yeah, there's a million things you can find on Google. And then they have your pet stores have the silicone too available on hand normally too and stuff. So if you want to be 100% sure, just go over to your local shop and pick one up.
Yeah, because a lot of fish stores do have the silicone for resealing and stuff. Don't come here. I don't have it. So
yeah,
but I know New Wave Aquarium has it next door, so it's a lot where I can just push it for them and stuff.
But I mean, the problem is if you need a lot, you're going to spend a lot of money on it if you buy into those small packages.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest with you. You can even contact like certain manufacturers. We have like custom aquariums in Wisconsin, and I know you can probably reach out to them and they're going to tell you what's aquarium safe for and stuff. They're not worried. Like custom aquariums is made to do like lifelong tanks, like big tanks. They don't do small 5-gallon aquariums and stuff. It's just not cost effective for them to do that. So they'll give proper information on that one too. So we talked about on Nano aquariums, we talked about how many you can fit on a rack. We talked about the ease of water changing on there, the different types of environments you can have, multiple different types of fish that you can put in there. Let's talk about some cons of having a Nano aquarium. Biggest one I see for the con is water parameters. So is it harder to have a 2.5-gallon aquarium than a 20-gallon aquarium? Yes and no. So The con about it is if you don't have a top for that, more evaporation will happen in that aquarium. What happens is when water evaporates out of the aquarium, the minerals that are in there, the GH and the KH, stay in the water. So the water gets harder. And then if you top it off with tap water, you're making it harder and harder and harder and harder versus using RO water, distilled water to top it off. So that's what I look at as like on a nano aquarium is the biggest con about it that people struggle with is the water parameter. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. And it's just a lot less more chance for forgiveness. If you have a larger tank and you've got a problem and you spot it right away, you've got a good chance of stopping whatever is happening in that tank. But in a small tank, all of a sudden you'll come in and one day and everything will be dead because it was always right on the borderline where it wasn't doing well, and then all of a sudden you didn't catch it, and then it's all gone. I just always water changes. Since we're all freshwater people, I always tell people, do you have a hydrometer? And they go, why would I need a hydrometer? I'm freshwater. And for those who don't know, a hydrometer measures the amount of salinity in your tank. And we had somebody on the podcast last night, and she was talking about her goldfish. And every time the water, she kept, I want to say up to 2 teaspoons per gallon of salt in the tank. And then it would evaporate, and she would add more salt and more water. And what's happened is that she turned that thing into a saltwater tank and killed all her goldfish because salt does not evaporate. Minerals do not evaporate. They stay in the tank unless you physically remove that water by siphoning it off. You're going to have all kinds of problems. So with a hydrometer, you can always, hydrometers are what, $7-8 a piece for a cheap one. Yep. Keep it on your shelf. It's just another tool in your aquarium belt that you want to use. And so that's what I like. I've got probably 4 or 5 hydrometers here, and people just laugh at me and go, oh, you used to do salt. I go, no, I've never done salt because I'm not a fan of salt, but I do check my freshwater tanks.
Yep. Good morning, Dr. Anthony. I want to say good morning. He's from the Amazon Research Center for Ornamental Fish down in Florida. So good morning. But yeah, so pH is basically, the measurements of the GH and the KH, and the majority, it's like a lot of KH. So the more KH you have in the tank, the harder it gets. So KH is calcium carbonate that's in the water. That's what a lot of, especially on shrimp and everything, if they're having failed molts and stuff, it's because the KH is too high. So I always ask people, I'm like, simple. When your water evaporates out of your tank, what do you put in there? Well, I put water in there. Okay, but do you put what type of water? I don't want to give them the answer. Well, I open up I turn my sink on. Perfect. That's solved my issue of what's all happening without even doing tests. Just, and I try and educate them about using distilled or RO water to top it off. But I think that is the biggest thing, and I know it's really misconceived because everybody goes over and says, I don't want to do a nano aquarium because I heard that it's harder to maintain. Which, if you just understand the concept of proper water changes and keeping the proper water parameter, it's super simple.
Yeah, and the thing is, as long as you don't keep adding and adding and adding fish or shrimp or whatever you've got, that's kind of the biggest. Once you come to that sweet spot, as we call it, and everything is perfect, leave it alone. Go out and buy yourself another tank. Start over there if you want something to mess with.
I remember after I won my on the Blackberries, the International Shrimp Contest in 2017, I had some people reach out to me and said, hey, do you have snowball shrimp? And I'm like, sure. I got a 2.5. One guy's like, well, can you sell me 100 of them? I'm like, oh yeah, I think there's 100 in there. Scooped out 100, shipped them to him. And then I had Rob from Flip Aquatics message me and say, hey, I could use some snowballs and stuff. Can you sell me some? Like, I don't really know how many are in there and stuff, but yeah, I can. Like how many are you looking for? He's like, I'll take whatever you got. I scooped out another 200. This is a 2.5 gallon tank. I scooped out another 200 of them and shipped it to him, and I still had shrimp in there. So that's a 2.5 gallon tank. So all I did is shrimp have a tendency that they'll breed in your aquarium, and they can breed every 30 days. And it's 30 to 40 babies in there. The thing is once they feel like the tank is full enough, usually a lot of times they'll stop breeding, but you can trick them. You can put more moss in there, and they actually think the aquarium's bigger because they're off the ground. So as long as you're willing to do, like, and I always do, like, for someone to say they have a 2.5 gallon tank that had over 300 shrimp in there and they weren't dying and they're surviving, it's because I was doing proper water changes. I wasn't overfeeding. I was doing my water changes in the tank. I was topping off with RO water. I kept a certain water parameter. And, I teach people to keep neocardinas at a TDS of 220 to 300, which is a mid-level pH. So what happens is, even if water evaporates out of that tank, that TDS, which is the GH and KH, don't get to critical level. It gives you some time, but I have to come up with a number so people can base it on their number. Because if I say, oh yeah, you can do that, oh yeah, you can do that, oh yeah, you can do that, people are just going to keep on taking more and more and more and more until they're at the critical level. And like, I didn't know.
Yeah, you push the limit on it and see how many you can get in there. That's half the fun.
I mean, over 300 shrimp. I was amazed.
Yeah, when I had my my warehouse over in the Detroit Lakes area, I kept 500 zebra danios in a 10-gallon tank. Okay, for two reasons. One is, if you want to catch 10 zebra danios, you have to have 500 because they're so damn fast. But I had this connected to a central system, and so I actually had another 1,000 gallons backing it up. But people would see this many fish in this tank and they were like, oh, you've got way too many fish in that tank. I go, we have to realize this water's getting changed, 4 or 5 times an hour. But people just don't get that. So when you see these people on YouTube and whatnot, and you see something like that, ask yourself that question, do they have a central backup system? And most of them do. And so just because you see that many fish in a tank doesn't mean that you can keep that many fish in a tank, because you're not going to have a backup like that.
I mean, you can literally look at the tanks. That's the thing, is look at everybody's tanks. If you look at someone's tanks and they have a 5-gallon tank and they have tons of fish in there and they got tons of algae all over the place and they got this going on right here, maybe they don't have good proper husbandry. I don't know. I'm not there. But if you start going over and I had a 120, Custom Aquariums had a 120 Fat Boy, and I had literally over 300 rainbow fish in there. And I have a video that it shows all these rainbow fish swimming back and forth, and people would go over and say, Joe, you got way too many fish in there. I'm like, but I'm the one that's doing twice a week water changes.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact of I didn't have to go over and fertilize that tank. And it was a flourish of plants in there because it produced enough waste. And that's where we came up with a happy median of this many plants, this many fish works really well. It's kind of like what I try and do with my show tanks at the stores is I push the limit on how many fish I can put in there to keep the plants sustaining. So almost like it's self-sustaining, but I still do my proper water changes in there.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch a lot of these zoo shows that they have on TV, be it Tampa or Atlanta and stuff, you'll see some of these aquariums that will have a 60-foot whale shark in there, and they talk about, oh, we've got, 500,000 gallons of water. But what if you did the math and you'd go, oh, they've got more than 1 inch per fish per gallon in this thing. And, but you don't see behind the scenes where they've got canister filters the size of your house.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, if you don't know what's going on in the background, don't be so quick to criticize if you don't know what's in the background.
Yeah. And I agree with it. Is there any other cons that you can think about on Nano aquariums?
I can't think of a whole lot of cons. One more pro that I do like that we didn't mention, lighting. You can light up a lot of Nano tanks with a 1-strip light.
I agree. So I kind of when I was telling people when they're thinking about doing rack systems, and they're like, I want to build a rack system. I'm like, all right. The average light that you can buy out there, that there's common sizes, 16, 20, 24, 30, 36, and 48. That's the most common type of strip light that you can buy out there. So then I tell people, if you're going to build this rack system, first figure out what size tanks you want. Because if you come up with an idea and you build it longer than that, but you can't fit it in there, it's just not going to suit your need. So I love 36 inches. I love external to external or internal to internal, depends on where you have your 2x4s, 36 inches. Because I can take a 36-inch light, put it directly over the top, and I can light up 3 10-gallon tanks. I can light up 5 5.5s. I can light up 6 2.5s on there. Now, if I decided, hey, I want to do 30 inches, and like 30 inches fits my thing, you can't fit as much as what you would in there in the 36. But it's cost effective. You're right. You can also, on these smaller aquariums, set up a central line air system like I do, where you just kind of pipe it into all the tanks, and you're only running one air pump. You're running basically on 3 levels, 3 lights.
Yeah, I love that idea. I mean, you're killing a lot of birds with one stone there. You know, the other thing too that I like about if we're talking like fish rooms and whatnot, I was over just recently, just somebody who professionally breeds angelfish, and what was cool is they had portable cameras that they could put on each tank as the fish are laying eggs. And for those of you that ever raised angelfish, you'll know that notoriously you'll have some pairs that will lay the eggs, leave them alone for 24 hours, and then eat them. And so most of these guys will want to pull the eggs, and you're talking 300 eggs, 400 eggs on a slate. That's a lot of money sitting there. And then these fish will turn around and eat them. And so they put these small little cameras, and they'll face it, and they can watch the camera on their phone. So they can be uptown, they could be, you know, somewhere else, and see that these fish are just got done laying eggs. And you swing by your warehouse, or you go down into your basement and you grab the eggs and save them. And I thought, you know, I'm at that point in my life where everything that I buy now, I don't want to buy again. I don't want to buy these lights. I don't want to buy this stereo again. And so my wife has been buying these power strips that you can control from your phone or put them on a timer. And so my lights all come on at the same time. They go off at the same time. I watched the other day that there's a gentleman on YouTube that had these little tiny, I would say they're probably about this big and 2 inches high, that sat on his floor of his fish room. And it was a water sensor that he bought online for like $24 that will scream at you if you're doing a water change and the floor gets wet. It will scream at you. Now you're going, oh, it's $24. What happens if you got to do sheetrock tomorrow because you walked away for an hour because the phone rang or you know, dinner was done and you went upstairs? And so I love all these things that people come up with, and I like to steal every good idea from every person.
Don't use it for salt water though.
No. Why is that?
So when I was part owner at New Wave, I bought, because we have flooded the store because we had a big 400-gallon bulk tank of RO water, and then we had, I think it was like 250 gallons of salt water. So then when we ran out of salt water, we'd have to make more. So we would just open up the valve, and we get busy. Everybody gets busy. And the thing is all of a sudden you would hear that notorious water.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, oh shit, here we go. So I bought that sensor, right? And I had it set up properly. So what I did is I didn't put it on the floor. I put it at the sensor at the very top of the bulk tank. So I knew when it got up that far, like, hurry up and run up there before it overflows. Someone, I won't say names, someone decided that that's the perfect alert to let people know that that's enough water and go up there to do it, versus like setting your timer on your phone. So they would wait till the alarm went off and then go up there and shut off the water. Well, the problem is like the tank was never 100% empty. So there was salt still in there. So when the sensor's hanging in there and the water goes past it and the salt water starts actually touching everything in there, like it's a connectivity thing. When you put water and you put electricity, it's making a connection. That's when the alarm would go off. But the problem is when you have salt water, it can start corroding in there. So what happened was all of a sudden it stopped working, and we basically trusted a $20 part, and all of a sudden we heard water going all over the place, and it's because I opened it up and the salt corroded the whole entire thing, so it couldn't set off the alarm.
Yeah, you know, I've seen a lot of these guys that set up fish rooms. You know, they've always dreamed of owning a fish room. They're finally building a house to do a fish room. And the one guy that made the most sense to me, he goes, "This is my fish room. I'm going to show you the most important part of my fish room." And he showed the 4 floor drains that he put in. He put in 4 floor drains in his fish room. So when that problem comes, it just goes to the floor drains. And because he goes, "I know how I am," because I walk away, I get distracted. I mean, right now we're putting a 50-inch TV in my fish room because I have one just outside my fish room, But what happens is that I walk out to see what's going on in the news or what's happening on the TV, and I should be in the fish room watching my water, and I overflow tanks all the time too.
Yep. I used to do it with making RO water by putting my bucket on the ground and then making it. And like, well, it takes on a 75 gallon ROTI system. It takes roughly an hour and a half to make 5 gallons. I'd forget. Like I'd turn on the TV, I'd forget, and I'd flood. So I just learned to start putting my buckets inside my sink or inside the bathtub when I'm at home, make my water. Yep. It's just a convenient thing.
Yeah, floor drains are the best thing ever.
I wish I had floor drains here. So in my back room, I actually have a floor drain on the opposite side, which it's not conducive enough to move my aquariums over there because the electrical panel is right there too. And I know the city would just love for me to put aquariums in front of it. So
there you go.
Yes. So let me just I just want to kind of revamp some things, and we can talk more about Nano aquariums if someone goes on there. Let me just pop this back on the screen. I do want to mention this, and I want to mention the other show as well. So this is a Minnesota Co-op get together. It's something that I wanted to go over and start. So I started this back in 2018. It's all about people coming together, united to form a great group, a great get together, a great store, whatever you want to call it. So I decided Minnesota Aquarium Society usually has a show once a year here in Minnesota. It has a decent turnout. They couldn't lock down a venue, so it got canceled. And I have a young gentleman in our admin chat that kind of lit a fire on my behind to have a get together going. So I decided to launch this get together. I'm co-hosting with Minnesota Plantarella, which is house plants, Minnesota Planted Tanks, along with Minnesota Fish Keepers. But there's other pages like saltwater people want to come out here. So we're doing an event June 3rd, 2023 from 12 until 6. I'll have food trucks there. We're going to do the raffle at 5 o'clock. We're going to have events for the kids as well. We have a special speaker, Melanie Holmes, who is from Team Nature Freaks, one of our aquascaping teams that I'm a part of. She's going to come up here and give an aquascaping demonstration as well. Here is the link on that one. Good morning, Corey. How you doing? Another thing that I wanted to talk about, and let me see if I can pop it up here. Let me just end this stuff. Oops, stop that screen. Preset. I want to share the other show that I want to talk about. Here it is. Share there. He did an update last night. So this is Aquafest in Slidell, Louisiana. So next year they are going to be doing it in a larger convention hall in New Orleans. So this is April 15th and 16th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you guys are still looking to go down there and have a booth as a seller, you can contact me. I can get you in the proper category to who to talk to on that one. If you're a creator and you like to attend this set event and have part of the creators booth, sell some of your merch, sell some of your products, please get a hold of me because we have a 10 by 30 booth out there. They did update a lot of their vendors. So, of course, on the freshwater side, we have custom aquariums going there that everybody knows and loves. We have Seachem. Sue from Seachem is going to be there. Green Fingers, I do believe, is houseplants down there. Biped Shrimp, my friend Eric. Awase is going to go down there. So not only is Awase going to go over there, but Jennifer Williams is going to be down there talking about aquascaping down there as well. We have my friend Timmy from Pet World, the big wood guy, and we have, of course, myself going down there, and there's other people. We have MB Betta's there. Wetwork is going to do I do believe, a saltwater demonstration down there. So there's a lot of cool things that are going there. You guys can go on aqua-fest.com to look for more information on that as well. It's a great thing. A lot of shows are great.
I love these events that they put up, and I just want to encourage everybody to go to any of these events that you see. My friend Adam Elnashar, who used to be a pet store owner up in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. He's also part of my Aquarium Guys podcast. Adam just recently went to Hinckley over the weekend to a reptile show, but they also had fish. They also had small animals. They had plants. They had all kinds of things. And you got to realize, just because it says saltwater or it says freshwater doesn't mean there won't be other stuff there. And you got to realize that everybody that has an aquarium probably has a dog or a cat or a saltwater tank or a hamster in a cage, and they're all interrelated. So you can't not go to these things. Every time I go, I find something cool and something new, and you always learn something. And there's nothing more than education. I can't tell you how much how valuable it is just to be schooled from somebody else. One of my favorite guys in the world, a gentleman who owned a place down in Florida, gave me the best advice, saying, Jim, you can keep a healthy fish healthy, but you can't get a sick fish healthy. He said, learn from other people's mistakes and don't make those mistakes yourself. And that was the best advice I ever got from another aquarist. And like Joe said, if you stay on top of your water changes and you won't have these problems, you won't have to be adding chemicals. You won't have to be scooping dead fish or dead shrimp or anything like that. So
I agree.
It's always good just to learn from somebody else. And I tell you what, I'm 58 years old, and there's still every single day you learn something from somebody, and you just got to put it in the back of your head, and keep up with it and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of small ideas that have turned into huge ideas for people over the years that could make you a lot of money. So
I would have never thought back in 2017 I'd be sitting where I'm at right now. I would have never remotely thought. I bought an aquarium and I had 2 goldfish in there named freaking Tiger and Woods, and I would have never thought of it progressing this far. And that's the thing, is what I did is I asked. There's certain people that I turned to in this industry for what I want to do, and I trusted what they were saying, and they helped me along the way. Now, a lot of people go over and say, oh, you guys are all competitors and stuff like this. Actually, believe it or not, even the fish stores here, I know all the owners. We all get along. It's a lot of times it's the customer base. The customer brings it to the level of we're competitors and stuff. Not really. I have people come into my store all the time looking for certain things. I'm like, I don't have them, but hold on a second. Let me call Ted and see if Ted has it. Oh, let me see if Chris Tunin has it. And I call all these other stores. I'm like, hey, I'm going to send a customer up there, and we're all appreciative. We all work along with each other. And same as the online sales. Look at Eric Lucas and myself, bipetshrimp.com. We literally have a booth side by side at every event we go to because we work really well together. I have people other people now saying on their lives, hey, find a local breeder that's close by you and copy what they do, because my water in Minnesota is different than the water down in Florida. My water is different than the water in California and everything else. So if you find a local breeder that you trust, that's the key word, is trust. Replicate what they do for their water changes, what they do for treating their tanks, or how they do stuff, because everything is different. Minnesota has a lot of iron in the water if you do well water and stuff. It's kind of what we do. We also have a lot of cities switching from chlorine to chloramine. So chloramine can bypass RO systems. And the thing is, you have to buy a special filter for it, which they make them out there. It just costs $3 more. We had someone ask, where is this event in Minnesota going to be? It's going to be here at the Joe's Shrimp Shack. Here's the address right down on the bottom here, over in Minnesota, Plymouth, Minnesota. Next year, I would like to go over and have it in a convention hall, have a proper convention hall where people can actually have full-size booths, full-size tables, and not worry about anything. Now, I base everything on the Farmer's Almanac for weather. It is what I do. But well, when you're this far, when you try to anticipate something months in advance, that's the only thing I can really go by.
Yeah, that's true.
So for the past 5 years, knock on wood, it has not rained on June 3rd. So they're anticipating it to be 68 to 70 degrees on said date. Now, if by perchance it does rain, so I'm providing tables and chairs and stuff. Unfortunately, I'm not providing a tent. If you guys want to bring your own tent, bring your own tent. Tents are just too expensive for me to provide. Sellers tables would end up being $300 a piece, just because it's $1,200 for 2 20 by 20 tents, and you only fit 8 tables underneath it. It's just too expensive. But if it said rains out, we will just push it back for either the next day or the following weekend or whatever else. But we can usually tell a week in advance. If any of the sellers tables decide, hey, I don't want to do that right now, 100%, I will refund the money back to them. But we're anticipating it's going to be looking really good. Hey, Papa Shrimp, how you doing? It's a great get together, and we have more and more people trying to add in on this coming up here. Is there going to be nano aquariums? Yes, there is going to be. For the kids aquascape workshop, they are going to be nano aquariums. I love my nano aquariums, love them. And I specialize in nano stuff here at the store. So most of my aquariums I have here are all nano aquariums that I sell. I can get other items for said people. It's just I specialize in nano stuff. So, and I know, Mr. Jim,
yes,
you're going to be bringing yourself and your better half, and you're going to be having a lot of fish there. Is that correct?
And we're going to bring some fish and some planted cholla wood that my friend Joe helped me get.
Yep.
And so we're going to bring as many things as we can in our 2 vehicles. I never thought about it, but I think we're going to buy a couple of tents now, because I remember the last time we were at your grand opening and stuff, the heat was pretty extreme and my beautiful head got all hot. So maybe I'll bring a couple of tents too.
That'd be nice. I had someone say co-op, ? Get along, ? Refund, ? Citizen, you are this close to sedition. Beware of communism. Okay. So this is where
relax, everybody.
This is where it's like you guys are taking it to like a whole entire different level. Like co-op is just a get together of houseplants, saltwater, freshwater, reptiles, anything, so what we have. Let's look at this right here. So let me actually like close this down, and you can see
looking for things to be offended by.
Oh my gosh. I know. I get that. So if you kind of look at like aqua creatures, green, and everything in between, okay, it's a co-op. It's a get. We're not talking. This is not drink your Kool-Aid stuff. I'm not trying to hey guys, I got some Kool-Aid for you. Let's all drink this Kool-Aid and stuff like this.
Let me put on my Nike sneakers.
Oh my. Yes. Oh, I was going to the bathroom. What happened to all you guys? Y'all are sleeping. It's not like that. And that's the thing is like this is on multiple platforms. We got Twitch, we have multiple Facebook groups, we have YouTube. It's all streaming on a certain platform. So the thing is like I have bots come in here. I'm not saying you're a bot. I have a lot of people like can catch like split conversations that we're having and kind of blow it up. So no, this is not like a Columbine thing. It's not. This is a get together of local hobbyists that want to like hang out and talk about fish, want to talk about plants, want to have fun and just hang out.
This is a support group.
It's a support group, guys.
Come on.
Hi, I'm an addict.
Exactly.
Hey, Papa Shrimp, how you doing? I do have flyers coming. I did order. Jadrin Aquatics did make a bunch of flyers for me. So he shipped them yesterday, so I should be getting them coming up here. Corey, 4 gallons are awesome. I love that right there. We have Silver Creek Aquatics. Is like, hey, y'all. So I just had as soon as I saw that, I was just like, wow. This is not like what y'all think. We're not trying to get you to go over and drink Kool-Aid at this event. Just to let you know, that kind of lightened my day and everything else.
Yeah, just relax, everybody.
Yeah. So, is there anything else that you would like to cover, Jim, on this at all?
No, I'm just super excited about this. I was disappointed when I heard that the Minnesota group couldn't get a event center, and I've got stuff that I'd like to get out there in the market. I'm one of the few people in the state that has some crown tail guppies. Nice. And I've got people standing in line for them. I'm trying to produce them as fast as I can. And I'm having a heck of a time getting in imports just so I can start breeding them. And when I say I bring in imports, I'll bring in 50 or 100 fish. And by the time it's all said and done, I've got 10 fish that live through the process because they are kept in completely different water than they are here in Minnesota. And what I'm selling stuff that's been born and bred here in Minnesota. Yes. And so what's funny is, people go, well, what are you charging for, said pair or whatever? And it's the same price that you're seeing on the internet. And you got to realize that it probably cost me $400 or $500 to get my first baby fish.
Yeah.
And so, and these crown tail guppies are that we've got going. I've got a huge demand for here in the area, and I will not release any females or males right now because I don't have enough to produce them for myself. Because there's certain things. I was on Aquabid last night looking, nobody's got them, and I've got 4 suppliers. Only one supplier can get them for me, and as soon as I asked, now the price went up on what I was buying from them, and so it cost me a $300-400 bill every time I buy a new color or new flavor, and then they turn around and I got to start over with said color and lose half of them just because they're kept in such different quality of water.
It's kind of like snow white guppies. I remember when snow white guppies came on the market 2018, 2019, something like that, and you only could get the males. Right. I mean, I even went to one person. I said, "Hey, I'll give you $45 for one female," and they said no because they did not want the females to get into America because they know Americans were just going to put a female in there and we're going to start breeding them. Right. And then we wouldn't have to import any more from them. Now, recently, the snow white female guppies have came in stock. Same as the red cap, red tail guppies, females have came in stock. Like gold ribbons. I just got gold ribbons, males and females that came in stock too. Mm-hmm. But that's the thing is like, you're going to bring a bunch of different plants or a bunch of different fish out there. Are you going to bring said snails that were really popular?
Yeah, we can get some of those in. I need to bring them in and sit on them for a little while. I do have some. I've had people ask for the shells for those things. The shells of those pagoda snails are so rock solid hard, and I gave some a handful of snail eggs or snail shells that didn't make it. Cleaned them up, gave them to a friend of mine. She's got the most beautiful jewelry. She's got earrings. She made a necklace and stuff out of these things. And then anyway, she calls me. She goes, "Have you killed any more snails yet? Because I need some more because people are asking for it, and she's selling them."
Yeah.
And beautiful snail. And 2 years ago we had them, and they went like hotcakes. But in order to buy those snails, that is an import item, and I need to sit on them for a while to make sure they're going to be healthy for everybody.
Yeah. And keep in mind, like if you need some temporary tank room when you bring down stuff, just let me know because I have open tanks back here too.
Yeah. And the thing is that I don't want to blow smoke up anybody's behind when it comes to. I mean, if I'm selling an import item, I'm going to tell you this is import. This is Minnesota grown. I wouldn't mix them up myself, And some people just want guppies to be in the tank that are pretty, and the import ones work just fine for that. But the other ones that are a little more high end, I definitely would just keep a species only tank, kind of like you do with your shrimp.
I mean, it's just one of those things where there's enough hobbyists out there that it's hard to keep up with breeding to meet the demand of what people are wanting. I know everybody used to always say, support your local fish store. And I agree upon that. Like, yes, can you go buy shrimp, fish, and everything else and breed them yourself and then go put a market and try and sell them? Yes, you can. The thing is like on these local fish stores, if you're not supporting the local fish stores, the local fish stores are going to close up. And I remember as a kid, my mom taking me to the malls, and I would love going to the fish store. That was my biggest thing is I have to go to the local pet store, and I'd go in there and I'd look at everything else. And we need to get our youth involved with stuff. Now, is there some pet stores out there that are super grimy and everything else? 100%. Like, I get that. Find a local fish store that you like, and then, support them. You can find hobbyists out there to support them as well. I do import some stuff in here. I also work with local breeders as well, and I breed my stuff in the back too. But I'm going to be honest with you. Some stuff I just can't keep up with. And that's the thing is like, if the demand is so high and I can't keep up with them, I got to bring stuff in. But then I let people know, like, hey, this came in 2 weeks ago. I've been watching and I've had no deaths. Like, I have tanks in the back. Ask your local fish store what their policies are for importations. Do they isolate? Do they treat? Do they do anything? I tell people to go to fish stores and look at all the aquariums. If you look at aquariums, their whole entire system, and you see, I love telling people that buy from stores that don't have a giant Mars system. A Mars system is where all the tanks are all tied into one specific line. Because if you have a sick fish here, in theory, all that water will run around to all these other tanks. Can you treat them? Yes, you can. But look at all the aquariums. If you have all these aquariums here, and there's all sick fish in all these aquariums except for one aquarium, like, it may not be that it's a healthy fish. It may just be such a fresh fish. It hasn't got sick yet. Do your due diligence. Ask the person, hey, where do you get your fish from? Well, a lot of times they won't tell their wholesaler and stuff. But, do you import? Do you buy from wholesalers? What do you do for sick fish? What do you do? And the thing is, if this fish store is kind of like skirting around the situation, you might want to find a different fish store, because they should be 100% transparent with what they do. I mean, it's your fish, it's your pet that you're buying.
Yeah, you definitely got to support your local people. Everybody to me will go, oh, I can get this fish for $1 cheaper online. Well, then feel free to go ahead and spend $75 on shipping, and then dealing with somebody from overseas possibly that won't return your phone calls. I mean, when you go to these shows, you meet the people that have bred them, and you look at the fish that they have, and you hear the backstory, and they didn't take a weekend off of their time to come here and blow smoke. They're there to provide healthy fish and support the community. Yep. When I was a kid, what turned me on to I just want to say pets in general. My dad raised canaries. And he had the most beautiful burnt orange and bright yellow canaries you've ever seen. And where he got all that stock from was Kmart. Kmart used to have live fish and birds and finches and whatnot. And, those days are gone. The Woolworths of the world are gone. The Kmarts of the world are gone. The Superstore, the Walmarts don't carry fish anymore. And pretty soon you're going to have a pretty limited window. And as much as I dislike a lot of the big box stores, what it does is it does introduce children to animals. It's like, how can you care about saving the elephants if you've never seen one, if you've never seen a majestic elephant, And so that's why I always try to explain to people that just because elephants should be free and roaming, but you've got these elephants that have been kept in captivity their whole life and probably won't do well out in the wild. You got to keep those animals on display to try to educate children about how precious these commodities are in our world. So I think it's just really important that we still trudge on, even though we've got trolls of the world telling us that we're doing it wrong. And, if you're looking for something to be offended by, turn on CNN or Fox News and just go that way.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. It's like a lot of people do go to a big box store, and that's their first appearance on there. Can you get cheap tanks? 100%. You can get cheap tanks. You can get a lot of things at a really decent price. I'm not going to say no names, but there is a big box store that is ranked number 1 in the nation for aquatics. Not too far from me. And if you actually come here on the weekend, a lot of their employees come here to buy their livestock. They'll buy their aquariums and whatnot from them. And they come over here for their livestock because they know that I quarantine stuff. I treat stuff. I watch out for certain diseases on there. I let my wholesaler know, hey, look, I want healthy. If you don't have healthy, don't sell it to me. Because if you sell me something, if you know something's not healthy and you sell it to me and I get it, I'm going to say you purposely try to get money off me and I'm not going to order from you anymore. That's just what I do. But yeah, I mean, there's a place for everything. That was the first fish store when I got into it. I went to a local chain store. I went there. I bought an aquarium. I bought a setup, and it worked really well. I then started trolling them. I would go in there, and I'd say, hey, I'm going to pick up a fish. And they said, well, what size tank do you have? I'm like, oh, I got like a 5-gallon aquarium. I got like 50 fish in there. And I'd watch your eyes just like get huge. And they're just like, you can't have any more fish. I'm like, you can't stop me from buying a fish. I can buy a fish. You can't do this. You can't do this. And the manager would come over. They're like, that's just Joe. Like,
ignore him. Ignore the man behind the curtain.
He's got like 8 million tanks at home. He is just getting a rise out of you and stuff. And it's just one of those things where it's just like, I like doing that to actually see if employees will actually say something. Because sometimes you can just go there and they'll be like, oh, yeah, I got a 5-gallon aquarium with 300 fish. Oh, yeah, do you want this goldfish? Here you go. Have this goldfish. And they don't care. But then you have some people. I mean, I understand if you're going there as a customer, you don't want to get the hassle like that. But at least it shows that they care. That's my thing. It's like they're at least caring. And I understand that you can think that a lot, like they do just hire kind of people off the street. Sometimes people don't have any experience. And then they get taught the box store way of doing stuff. But if you actually have someone there saying, hey, I don't suggest that you do this, or I don't want to do this, they're actually caring about their items that are there. So let's see. Quick one. If I ever want to go broke, my fish store will help. I think it's supposed to be help. Oh, hold. We'll hold. Oh, if I ever want to go broke, my fish store will help quarantine, which is great. Now I've actually done it where when people they talked to me about they're buying fish, and they're like, well, my tank's only been set up for 2 days, and I got like 30 fish coming in. I'm like, I'm gonna be honest, your tank isn't cycled. Like you need to cycle your tank. What I'm willing to do is I'm willing to babysit these said fish. I have aquariums in the back. I will babysit these said fish. But keep this in mind too. If like, I don't know where you bought the stuff from. You're just bringing me these fish. If they die in my aquarium, like that's not really on me, but I'm willing to help out. I help out a lot of people. A lot of people will turn in fish here too. I only choose certain fish. Like if you bring an African cichlid to my store, I'm not taking it. I'm going to say,
why are you hating on cichlids?
You need to go to Forest Lake Pets for that one. I just don't. I like plants. I'm a plant person, so like I don't have an aquarium for an African cichlid. I just don't. I have plants in every single one of my tanks, and I like my plants. So, but guys, yes, it's been a great topic of nano. I know we got off topic a lot today with the nano. It's kind of what we do. Like it's
wasn't
like,
me.
It's bubbles.
Yeah.
I kind of see all over the place, but I want to thank you guys all for watching. I want to thank Jim for being here. I love Jim's advice and stuff. I'm going to probably have Jim on here more often. I kind of hound him. If he doesn't answer, I kind of like message his wife.
That's right. You know what I'm going to get you for Christmas, Joe?
Huh.
Is I'm going to get some handrails installed on my butt because you ride me so hard that it's for your safety so you don't fall off when you're.
That's right. Hey, just to let you know, I still have your box of cholla wood here too.
We're going to be down there in 2 weeks.
Awesome. It's sitting here. So
we're on vacation and we're taking the week off to go to a bunch of different concerts in a bunch of different cities. So
nice, yeah. Because I see a lot of posters up there of musicians and stuff.
We've got about 700-800 pieces of memorabilia on 6 different walls. And,
so you're like the Hard Rock Cafe up in your area.
Yeah, we've got as you come down our stairway and stuff, we've got five or six guitars that are all signed by various artists and stuff. Nice. And I'm a big 80s fan, and I've got a chance to meet all these people, and it's just that's what we enjoy doing. We're gonna go see REO Speedwagon up in Bemidji. We're gonna go down and see Toto and Journey down in Sioux Falls. We're gonna come down to the cities and see a band and stuff. And we take vacations and stuff. We'll try to jam as many concerts in different cities. We've been waiting now for a few years. We had the trip of a lifetime signed up just before COVID kicked in, and we were going to go. We're going to fly to 6 different cities in 10 days to go see all these different bands, and that all fell apart, of course, right when COVID kicked in. It took me a year and a half to get my money back and stuff on that. So that's still. But we want to go see like Lady Gaga at Madison Square Gardens, and we want to go see Sammy Hagar in St. Louis. And
now, did you see that link? I think I saw it on Facebook. One of the local casinos is having like back to the 90s.
Yeah, there's actually they're having a back to the 80s one. They have a back to the 90s one and stuff.
Or it's like Vanilla Ice. I saw on it. I think it was In Sync.
I tell you, some of those shows where they they may only had 4 or 5 hits. What I should say is 4 or 5 more hits than we've ever had. Yeah. But so one of the best times we ever saw, we went up to our local casino here up north, and we saw MC Hammer, Tone Loc, Salt and Peppa, and there's nothing more fun than trying to watch 1,000 white people try to dance. It was just hilarious. And but MC Hammer came out after the show and was talking to everybody and Salt and Pepper and stuff. Oh yeah, it was a good time. Not my genre of music, but I'll go see anybody once. And stuff.
I mean, I remember the first concert I ever went to. My mom made my brother take me. Was Van Halen.
Mm-hmm. That was my first concert.
Easter Friday '87. I remember clearly. It was the first one I ever did. I was like a wee tyke. My brother was forced to do it. At the time, My mom worked for a company that she answered a lot of different phones for different companies, and there was a button, and it says, "I support safe sex," and on the back of it there was a condom. I was a little tight, jean jacket and everything else. I put it on, like I was like, boop, and I was super proud. I'm going with my brother and stuff, and we're going to this concert. Saw Van Halen, super great. I took the button off and I threw it up on stage because I was not like in the front. I was kind of off to the side, but I was close enough where I could chuck it up there. Went over, and Sammy went over and picked up the button, pinned it on his crotchal area, and just kept on going. Look what happened, though. I'm 45 years old. I can remember when I went, what all happened down there. It made my day. And aquariums do the same thing. When kids go to an aquarium store and they have an experience, they remember. And that's the thing is I want to have kids. I want to empower the kids when they come here with, making their aquariums what they want. There is a question in the chat. It says, other than shrimp, what are some things a beginner can start with to try and profit? You got shrimp, you got plants, you have fish, like live bearers. Everybody kind of likes doing live bearers. The thing I tell people is like, what can be popular today might not be popular in 6 months. So you got to kind of like look at certain things. It's kind of like, I give talks all over the nation. I went to one of the places I gave a talk to. They bought orange lilies. One of the gentlemen bought orange lilies from me. He then bred them and sold them to everybody in the area. So everybody had orange lilies. And then people are like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Everybody has these. Go to a different color.
Right.
That's the thing, is that if you're looking for other than shrimp, that you can start with plants. You can grow plants. Don't find like the most common plants out there. It's people have the most common things out there. Like I had a gentleman give me Rotala blood red species Singapore, and I put it in my show tanks. People want it. I do trimmings and I sell it off like that. Just 5 of them for $6 or whatever it is. Fish. Super red plecos. There's a young gentleman in the northern part of the metro area is doing super red bushnose plecos. If you look at Jim's got these crown tail guppies that he's trying to breed because everybody wants them. It's just find something in the hobby that you can do. I mean, don't find something that's like never been bred before, because usually if it's never been bred before in captivity,
there's a reason.
Exactly. Some people said a mono shrimp. Okay, there's a reason why these big breeders in Taiwan and Germany don't breed a mono shrimp. It's just a lot of work for such. I don't want to say like little return. There is a lady that's down in Iowa that breeds a mono shrimp, but I kind of look at it this way: you get a mono shrimps, they breed. You have to figure out how long ago they got bred. Move them to a brackish water tank. Allow them to release as a larvae, remove the adult, wait till the larvae get to the peewee stage, and then you can acclimate them back to fresh water. And then on that side, they're peewee, then you have to wait till they're a decent size and stuff. I mean, you have a lot of time and effort stuck into that, to try and wholesale them for $1. Like guppies are a great example where guppies you can breed, you can crossbreed to get certain things, and the females hold a semen and they start like releasing every single month, to a point where I would say live bearers. I would say Placostomus are good ones. Angelfish is a good one. Find something that's unique out there, like an angelfish that you can actually go to a local fish store and ask them, saying, hey, if I was going to breed something for you, what would you like? I tell people CPDs, celestial pearl danios. Breed me celestial pearl danios. I will take 50 to 100 every single month from you. Every single month. But the thing is people aren't breeding this stuff. They're trying to breed like things that a normal store wouldn't want.
Yeah, I mean, the people that are trying to breed are looking for high-end, high-dollar, and I agree. I mean, one of the first professional guys that we had on our show was Steve Rubicki from Angels Plus out of New Olean, New York. And he was nice enough to come on our show. We probably had 5 or 6 episodes underneath our belt. and stuff. And talking to Steve off the air, he said, if people realize how much I culled angelfish, they would lose their mind. Mm-hmm. He said, because I only want to sell you a pair for $450 because I'd rather sell you one pair than have 500 fish here that I'm feeding and doing water changes on constantly to get $1 for. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he's constantly trying to come up with, and he's probably one of the better known people in the nation with koi angels. I mean, he's got some angelfish that are 90% orange now, but he's worked on it for 40 years.
Yeah. I mean, I tell people all the time what I'm looking for at the store. So there's the thing is like me as a store, like for what I sell something as retail, I cannot pay retail for them coming back because if I paid, retail for it, I'm going to have to raise the price to sell them to you guys. So I look at what the wholesaler charges and I usually go above for homebred and I pay set amount. But here's a pro. You don't have to go on Facebook and you don't have to list them and have strangers come to your house and sell 10 here, 5 here and stuff. I'm buying hundreds at a time at one crack. And there's a couple people that come here on a regular basis that they just send me a text. Hey, do you need any more of these? I'm like, sure. And they literally come with a big giant bag. And recently it's like, they're not even like sitting and waiting for the acclamation. They're just walking in saying, here, Joe, here's the bag. And then they walk out. And then next time I see them, I have the money for them from last time they came in and stuff. But it works good. So if you're trying to breed something for profit, see what the market is around you. Go to local Facebook groups. My biggest thing is like go to a local fish store. I mean, a fish store is not going to pay you retail price, but at least you're able to unload a bunch of something at one time.
Yeah, you need to develop a relationship with that store. Because here's what I hate when I call them one-offs, where people will come to me and say, hey, can you take these, 75 or 100 Bristol's Plecos? And I'll go, sure, and I'll give you this much for them. And they go, well, can you give me a deal? Can you give me a new tank? Can you give me a deal on that and stuff? And what I don't like about one-offs is you never see these people again. And I want to develop a relationship, so they keep bringing them to me. So I'm not very apt to give you most stores will buy them from you, and then if you want to trade them for a heater, I'm charging you full price for the heater too. And now I just made money twice off of you. But if I've got some select group of people that I work with all the time, I'm more than willing to help you save $1 on a heater or whatever else it is.
I agree. Like if the random person walks in and says, "Hey, I want to get this." Emerald Esporas, yes, yep, they're great too. And I agree. Same as Erythro Micro and Danny Elf too. I love it when people come in and they want to have a long-term relationship with me. And because then I can go over and say, look, if this is a long-term thing, if you're looking for something specific, let me know what you're looking for in specific. I can usually do something better on an in-store credit than what I can on cash. JL, my moderator, he stopped in here yesterday and he was breeding black mollies. Like when I say black mollies, these are like black is like this top up here, like they were solid. And I looked at what the local wholesaler was selling them for, and I paid them way past that. And I said, look, I'm going to take a lot of these and put them in my new tank that I just did for a show tank because there's a lot of algae coming because they're great for algae eating and stuff like this. And I put them in the tank and they're instantly starting to pick at stuff. So it's all about like, he's done me favors by moderating for me. He's been breeding stuff. I said, bring it up here. He brought them up here. They were beautiful. And that also makes, sense of like, if you breed some stuff and it's got crooked spine or clamp tail or just random stuff that we can pick, like it's hard for us as a store. Just because you bring something doesn't mean 100% we're always going to take it. I had a gentleman that said he was breeding antler guppies. And I said, yeah, I could take some antler guppies. I said, you got females? Well, because we needed females at the time. He says, oh my God, I'm going to bring you like 50 females, Joe. I'm like, perfect. Awesome. Great. Swing on in. He came in and had 4 bags littered with guppies. Like there had to be at least 300 or 400 of them in there. And I agreed to ton of 50. And then I looked at him and I'm like, are these antler guppies? I mean, I see some antler males in there. Are these antler guppies? He's like, well, at one point I put regular guppies in there. and they started breeding and stuff. So I just scooped everything out and I brought it to you. And I was just like,
thanks for the feeder fish.
I just kind of went over and I said, this is what I can do, because these aren't really like 100% like Endler guppies. I got to pay you this much. And I didn't even sell them in my store. I think I paid them $25 to $30 for all of them, which is like more than what he would normally get from feeder guppies are like super cheap when you sell them to a wholesaler. I found someone that wanted to have a project. And I said, here's the thing. Here's a giant net. There's 3 aquariums over here. Whatever you scoop, you can take. You can have them all. Like, I really don't care. Because I can't go over and sell in a good conscious mind. I can't sell guppies that I know have a normal guppy strand in there versus just the Endler guppies. I just can't, because someone's coming to my store and they want that Endler guppy. They don't want to buy a regular guppy that I hoodwinkled and it said it was a Endler guppy. You know, same as like shrimp. When you breed shrimp and stuff, like if I tell people, like, if you bought shrimp from me and you kept my solid line, there's a good possibility I can buy it back from you and I'll tell you what I'm going to pay for it. But if you went to Petco and you bought the same color shrimp and you threw it in there, more likely I'm not going to purchase them from you. Just because like I like the line that I receive. I've always liked that line and I want to keep that line strong. It's kind of like my Orange Eye Royal Blues. I have a young gentleman that I won an award on him. I sold him some. He's been breeding them. He won an award on them, and I just buy him back from him all the time. Like, I'm waiting for him to get his next batch so I can have him at my store here. So here we go. So let's see. I have a 5-gallon tank full of CPTs growing out fry. So, but yes, I know I asked Jim to come on here. It's an hour-long one. We've been going for an hour and 41 minutes. So, guys, I want to really thank you all for coming here. If you guys haven't, like, subscribe, hit the subscribe button. If you guys want to leave a comment on here, share, leave a like. I do have a membership program on here that gets you discounts. Become a member on there. Guys, I want you to have a shrimptastic day. I love you all. June 3rd is the event here in Minnesota. Be there and don't be square. It's for us and by us. So, guys, love you all. You guys have a good one, okay?